start really by going, who the hell am I? And what gives me energy and passion, and go and follow that.
I equate that to your points around Wamly too, in terms of like why you're in 147, 148?
47.
147 countries, and you're like, you don't even know the people that are buying that. And that's because the product that you built was solving something quite complicated for them to do, but in such a simple way.
You have perfect validity predicting job success at a factor 1, which by the way doesn't exist. Nothing in the world can give us 100% accurate, like Cam or Fran will be incredibly successful in the role.
Admitting that you don't know, I don't have the answer. Paradoxically, on the other side of admitting that is confidence, right? And so the point is, it's like, I believe that I'm the person. It's because I'm the one that has this vision. But in terms of getting there and all the things that need to happen in between, I have no idea. And then suddenly the weight's off the shoulders, the vision's still clear, and kind of confidence comes in because I'm going to figure it out.
Back to the founders listening, this has to be fun. Because it's like, can I say it? It's fucking hard, right? I don't know if I can swear on the founder files, but like, it is damn hard to do this. And so if you're not enjoying it, it's, in my opinion, nearly impossible.
Hello and welcome back to the Founder Files. Today I'm talking once more to Francois de Wet, the CEO and founder of Wamly. All right, so last time I spoke to him, he wasn't the CEO. This time he is, even though he is the founder of this business. Now, why am I talking to him again? The nature of scaling, as we know, it's on the label, requires a bit of an evolution. What Francois has been through with Wamly is an evolution of a product that has won so many awards in the market, right? He had 5 years of cash runway in less than 3 years of being in operation. And he's now evolved his offering to a much more broader, modular kind of product. What I wanted to know is why. Right? So I want to know what the nature of the scaling journey is, why he's changed his product, what the evolution of the problem is within the market and the ecosystem, what he's learned, what he's changed, how he's grown and developed. And that's really what the conversation is, right? It's understanding how he's shifted his product, how he's shifted his strategy, how he's evolved as a human being, how the nature of the challenges of the market have remained the same, but the understanding of that he has, as well as his business has and the market has of this problem, how that's evolved and how he's grown his business to this point. So given the fact that he's just launched a new iteration of Wamly, I really wanted to get into the depth of the story behind it. And I hope that you enjoy this too, right? And if you are not subscribed to the Founder Files, this is the kind of stuff that we talk about, right? Getting into the real detailed, honest stories about the person, the business, the change, the scaling, and no holds barred, right? We get into the actual radical honesty and truth behind it. If this is the kind of stuff you like and you dig, then stick around. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. It's the best way to support the podcast, and it's the best way to make me happy, and it's also the best way to make sure that you don't miss any of these epic scaling stories from founders like Fran. But on that, let's actually hear from him. Let's make sure that we get into the story. So enjoy. Welcome to the Founder Files, the podcast that's like eavesdropping on a conversation with a successful entrepreneur over a fireside chat. Join me, Cameron Coots, through this unique experience of unfiltered stories and insights from scaling founders around the globe as they share their ups, downs, and everything in between. Hey Fran, welcome back to the Founder Files.
Cam, it's amazing to be back. I was actually trying to remember, how long ago did we do the first episode?
Oh man, I think there's been almost like 100 episodes in between this. I think you were episode
Wow.
36, like the first time we did this, and now we are tracking into the 130 territory of the podcast episodes. So it's definitely been a while.
Listen, man, congratulations. That's amazing. I attended a book launch a couple of weeks ago from Eric and John. That they recently won some sort of podcast award as well. I think the best podcast in Africa or something like that. And John was telling me that if you're able to go above 20 episodes, like you're in the top 0-something% in the world. So, I mean, well done to the Founder Files. That's phenomenal consistency, bud. Well done.
Thank you, man. And same thing to you and on your own content that you're releasing in your own podcast. Just on that, for like the people that are super into podcasts, which I'm assuming you are, if you're watching or listening to this, tell us a bit about yours.
Yeah, so actually, it's called Solving the People Puzzle. It was an initiative I started probably 2.5 years ago which is an extension of our deep passion, care, and love for the HR community. So I wanted to bring media assets, if you want to call them that. So it's the podcast is one of 3 channels or initiatives that we've got here that's got nothing to do with our business and our technology. It's really just a platform to uplift and empower the HR community. So solving the people puzzle, 2 episodes a month. 95% of the time, it's an HR exec or someone really senior in HR, just talking about what they're passionate about. So it's, yeah, I think episode 60 something now, and we've upgraded the studio, and yeah, still really, really loving and enjoying the journey.
Good for you, man. Well, I guess let's get into the story of the business, right? So, I mean, for people that maybe didn't listen to episode 36 who don't know you, what is Wamly, right? What is your business? What is your business model?
Yeah, sure. So Wamly, firstly, the quirky name, we help you create a work family. So that's where like Wamly comes from. But basically, it's an HR tech platform that we started. As you mentioned, I'm the founder 4.5 years ago, and it started out as a SaaS business. It is to this day, from a business model perspective, a SaaS business with many other elements and angles, which I'm sure we'll get into. But it started as one-way video interview software, so asynchronous video interview software. The idea that a candidate gets presented with questions as part of the hiring process, and they answer while being recorded, and then the panel that you link up with the vacancy can then come in at their own time, HR first and line managers later, or at the say, like, depends how you set it up, and then basically listen to the candidates answering the questions, and then scoring and rating them, and then making a decision around who moves forward in the hiring process and not. So that was Wamly, and to this day, it's still a core module in the platform. But that's it in a nutshell. So what's the USP? Saving time, um, reducing admin, logistics, scheduling, and just speeding up the hiring process and helping you get to the real person behind the CV. I think there's so many thousands, hundreds of thousands of scenarios where people end up in an interview, and then within the first 5 minutes, you're like, shit, Fran doesn't look like his CV, and I now need to sit in this for 45 minutes or an hour or whatever the case might be, and you actually know, like, you're not going to appoint this person, but for some reason they're in the boardroom, and you have to kind of sit through the pain of that interview.
So, I mean, Fran, the reason why I was so keen to have a conversation with you is that, we was like speaking offline. I mean, you've just like really gone to market with the new business evolution. And I just kind of want to understand why, because, when we first started, and I want to get more into like the journey, and we'll talk through that. But the title of the episode I had with you is like how you got to 5 years of cash runway in less than 3 years. I mean, from like all intents and purposes, you are absolutely nailing it. You're out to the market, like. And I think that's the whole point of this conversation is like why change? But just at a high level, you had a very niche, narrow product solving a real problem, adding a lot of benefit and value. What happened?
It's a great question, and I think firstly, if we go back to some of the stats that you just mentioned, I mean, all of that was true. I think you and I met just after we won Tech Startup of the Year in 2023. You are right, 5 years of runway. VC came on board within the first year. We were first to market from a local perspective in Africa with video interview. And what an incredible part and part of the story, really, because HR as a community and HR tech as an industry is, in my opinion, one that's not really been disrupted. I think there's still a lot of digitization happening, but not a lot of digitalization. So, like, kind of just to get into it, a lot of the HR and hiring processes, especially the hiring process, to this day, like fast forward 2025, to this day, is still very fragmented and manual and admin intensive. And I still get to meet a lot of HR officers, HR business partners, recruitment consultants that spend a big chunk of their day screening CVs and really like manually going through all the noise of a desperate, I guess, what South Africa, especially from an unemployment perspective, trying to find jobs. And so you have all of these people applying and clicking the quick apply on LinkedIn and sending the CV in for kind of no matter what the job title is, hoping to kind of just to get seen. So we hit the market with video interview, but it wasn't just the technology. I mean, at the time, there were, and I remember this vividly because I remember it in the pitch deck for our VC, and I kind of re-looked at it the other day because I'm now building a new pitch deck for Series A raise, which we can talk about if you want to. But I remember there's a slide, there's 108 video interview providers. This was 2022, 2021 globally. So we didn't come
It's
into
not a
South
lot, eh?
Africa with, it's not a lot. It's really not a lot. And in South Africa being the first, like, so there was a lot of excitement, curiosity, romance, if you want to call it that, around this concept. And we must not forget the timing of this, right? So it was COVID, just post COVID. So this idea of work from home, everything's digital. We're not stopping recruiting, but we can't necessarily facilitate, or we're not allowed to, or we don't choose to facilitate interviews. So like any founder story, success story will be ignorant if they say there isn't also luck involved and timing somewhere in the journey, right? So it wasn't a COVID solution. I started building it in 2019, but the timing was beautiful. And the HR innovation and disruption market landscape needed something fresh and new. So together with the product, we also placed a massive emphasis, and that's just exponentially accelerated and grown and really become like the absolute foundation of our culture and our DNA, was this idea of building a brand and a community with the technology. Like AI now, your tech and your differentiation and what you're building, it's so relative at the speed at which things are changing. Like, I don't think that you can only just focus on the product and the technology anymore. And so we purposefully made a decision back then to really put a lot of emphasis on the community and the relationships, and deeply understanding HR and the HR community and what frustrates them and what problems do they have. And I spoke about the podcast, and HR dinner is something I do once a month, where there's 10 HR execs going with me to a dinner. And once a quarter, we have these massive events where hundreds of people come, and it's just us giving back. So I think all of that there gave us incredible traction. It gave us incredible acceleration. We hit the ground like flying, not even running, and that's the reason why those stats were the way they were. We didn't really need VC money. We didn't really, and so, but that wears off at some point, and maybe wearing off is the wrong term, but at some point we realized that we're stuck in a hiring value chain, that we've got no control over what's happening to the left and to the right of the video interview. And that was the start of my thinking around how do we continually evolve and optimize the product offering to create more stickiness, to solve more problems, to give the clients what they want. I was speaking to a client this morning telling me that they've got 9 systems that they touch in their hiring process. 9. Now you can imagine, from a data perspective, the data's everywhere. Using that data to make informed decisions becomes nearly impossible. So what business outcomes do these execs need to talk to? Speed to hire, quality of hires. How does my hire reduce turnover? What's the link with performance, job satisfaction, culture and environment fit? Like these high-level strategic decisions or insights are almost impossible to make if you can't use the data that you've got. So, I mean, I'm alluding to a bunch of reasons as to why, but the evolvement of Wamly was because of client feedback, me understanding where in the value chain we were and how dependent we were on either HR understanding how to put the puzzle together, which isn't that obvious or easy to do, even if you understand how. And then lastly, client feedback. And because our relationship with our clients are so deeply entrenched, they will tell us on a daily basis what they need, what their problems are, what they're struggling with. And this just created this opportunity for us to build Wamly out.
Yeah, man. And I think the need of what it is that you're doing is, I mean, for the sake, the audience might not know this, but we're both industrial organizational psychologists. So there's just lots of room for us to just geek out in this conversation. But like fundamentally, every single business has recruitment and hiring, like ever. Like that's just the name of the game. It's something that's never, that and sales are two things that every single business was just running on.
Exactly.
It's people, right? They're human beings. We're
Exactly.
social animals. Without getting too anthropological about this, the point of a recruitment process is to predict future performance in a role, right? And that is fundamentally what it's there for. And the thing is, we can know this, and I'm not even a recruitment or hiring expert, right? But the knowing the science of how it is that we're going to predict performance, we realize how poorly most recruitment exercises and hiring exercises are done. So there's this level of knowledge, but there's also this kind of need and contribution that we can bring to the table. But it's also super challenging because also, again, within the HR world is like getting that seat at the table in terms of talking business matters and problems instead of HR stuff. And it's really, you can bring these expertise, but also trying to convince an operational director who's always hired off intuition to now go through some scientific process is always a challenge. But there is a massive gap. And right. So the reason why video interviewing as well, besides the video component, is just that one, CVs are one of the worst predictors of job performance. And then if you look at competency-based interview questions and interviews are one of the best. So the kind of standardization and room for that is there. So just from your personal perspective, right, and what is that our shared profession, what's your feeling around what it is that you're building and moving towards now that you're going, along the value chain, you're solving more problems that in this recruitment and hiring process? What about it are you excited about?
I think the first thing is let's double click on this concept of the science, because and what I'm going to say now might come across controversial. So to the listeners, that's definitely not the intention. So bear with me here. If you look at hiring traditionally, and when I say traditionally, I'm actually not referring to in the past. Like the majority right now is also struggling with this. There's this siloed approach. If you think of the steps in the hiring process, and the science is not applied everywhere. For example, if we think of attracting talent, because that's basically, Cam, the biggest problem that is actually becoming more and more of a problem every single day, is the war for talent. Now we know that phrase, we know the concept of what it's about, and etc. But the problem is not going away. Like, where do we find top talent? And if we specifically think about our context, the South African and African context, um, our unemployment rates, our skills shortage, our exodus of skills abroad, the work from anywhere policies, like it's really, really hard to find talented people. And I can say that even as a business owner trying to find back end and front end developers for Wamly right now, to find really competent salespeople, account managers, marketing, like every single department in Wamly, we're also feeling the pain of the war for talent. So if I go back to attracting talent, very little science is applied in rolling or running a system around that. So what would typically happen is I'm either using referrals, I'm prepared to pay the placement fee, which is a grudge purchase for a recruitment firm or an executive search firm, or I'm paying a license to subscribe to a job board. Now, the majority of large corporate organizations will have that in play, or all of them, right? Referral programs, a budget for placement fees, and licenses with job boards. But there's no real science except for I'm willing to pay for someone to give me top talent. And if I'm linked up to a job board, I'm hoping that the talent sees my ad, get drawn to it, wants to go through the pain of applying, and then there's a whole rabbit hole there around what do the ads look like? How are they grabbing the attention of Gen Zs? We're living in the attention economy. Attention span is 7 seconds, blah, blah, blah. But science is lacking in attracting talent. Then we've got CV screening, right? And you either have technology helping you with that or you've got humans doing it. And again, that's a skill. Is your job profile crafted in a way that you actually understand how to fairly differentiate between the candidates? Then if I go further down, you run into interviews, and the interview process typically is not highly structured. You mentioned competency-based interview questions, but the majority of organizations who do try and run them really struggle with the panels completing those documents, scoring candidates on a scoring key that everybody understands, and then aggregating all of that data back into a fit score that can help them differentiate who's better fit for the role and who's not. Where does the science live, and where has it always lived? It lives down the funnel, when you get to something like psychometric assessments, and in most organizations, this is not even the same department. You've got talent acquisition or recruitment as a department, and you've got OD or assessments or talent management where the industrial psychs and the psychometrists sit, and they will get the shortlist post-interview from HR with an instruction to assess the top 2 or 3 candidates. And that's really where the most science comes in terms of giving feedback to HR and line managers. And one of the biggest reasons why I started Wamly and why we're on this journey is I fundamentally don't agree with that process, because there's so much room for mistakes that you can actually end up assessing the wrong people all in all. And so it's like, yeah, between Fran and Cam, like Cam is more suitable, but Johnny actually 7 steps ago was actually the best suited for the role. So the validity ladder, it's clear, it's evident. If anybody wants to go and check it out, right at the top, you've got cognitive ability, personality, a work sample, and a structured interview. If you can run those 4 together, or at least have the data points of all 4 before you make any sort of decision, that's your best predictor of job success. 0.63.
Sorry, let's just slow down on that, because also we've got like a lot of founders here. That's
Yes.
there's the risk of us
Yes.
on
Yeah.
the nerd out, right? Cognitive ability, personality, work sample, and structured interview. Unpack all of those for me. Quick one, while I have your attention, I've built something for you. It's called the Founder Roadmap, and it's designed to give you sharp clarity on where your business is leaking time, energy, and money, and exactly what to do about it. In just 15 minutes, you'll see how scale ready your business really is, where you're stuck, where you're leaking cash, and what to focus on next. Now, this isn't some generic theoretical download. It's built from everything I've learned across 120 plus episodes of the Founder Files and working directly with over 150 founders. This is totally free, there's no sign up, and there's no email request. Now, what's the catch? Well, there isn't one. I'm not doing this to market to you. I'm doing this because you've invested your time into the Founder Files. And because I'm so grateful for that, I wanted to invest my learnings back into you. So hopefully you can take some of the guesswork out of growth and build a business that doesn't fall apart the moment that you take a holiday. So, if you're serious about building something sustainable, not just busy, then this is the next best 15 minutes you'll probably spend on your business. So hit the link in the episode description and give the Founder Roadmap a go to get some of your time and money back.
Cool. Let me actually conceptualize the validity ladder for the listeners. So you have perfect validity predicting job success at a factor 1, which, by the way, doesn't exist. Nothing in the world can give us 100% accurate, like Cam or Fran will be incredibly successful in the role. Right at the bottom, you've got 0, obviously, and then you can even go into the minus. Now, if we think of various assessment methods that can help us, think of them as levers that can help us understand or predict job success. You start at the bottom with like graphology, star signs, handwriting.
Numerology.
Exactly. And then some of the things that some of the founders and listeners might think predict job success will surprise you. It's quite low on the validity ladder. Something like experience and qualification. Now, let me premise that with, of course, if you're wanting to hire a doctor or psychologist, you need that document. But for most roles, qualification and experience is not really high on the validity ladder. Then you run into something like an unstructured interview, which is a coffee chat. Like you and I chatting, let's see the chemistry, let's see the vibe, can we get along? So that's an unstructured interview, meaning it's not the same for all candidates. There's not an interview guide with specific questions. And then the higher up you go, you get those 4 elements that I just spoke to. And then individually, you have the rest in the middle. But what are the 4? Cognitive ability, which is the single best predictor of job success, if you measure it in isolation, is an assessment that taps into my brain's capability or capacity, to kind of explain it in layman's terms. So my numerical reasoning, my abstract reasoning, my verbal reasoning, my ability to deal with complexity, the way I solve problems, basically. So that's cognitive ability. And those instruments have right and wrong answers. Okay, so you get a score. And some people are better than others. If you really want to simplify it, which is not the same, but you can think of it as IQ in a way. It's not the same, but for the listeners. Personality is an instrument that assesses my preferences It's tied to what can I do in the workplace? What do I prefer to do? What do I like to do? There's a bit of a difference between personality and motivation. We don't have to geek out too deeply, but what sits in Francois' personality that's going to make him really enjoy and excel in his job? Teamwork as a construct, embracing change, resilience, agility, determinations, perseverance, etc. The list goes on. And so we assess the personality and we match the data against the requirements of the role. Then you've got a work sample. That's a technical assessment. So let's say I'm hiring for a developer. You would send a take-home exercise to your top candidates. You'll give them 2 days. You'll give them a problem, a scenario, something that they need to code. You'll bring them into a coding environment and they'll code. And then the line manager will score based on my technical capability. Can you do a VLOOKUP? Can you do a pivot? Can you do a presentation? Depending on the role, a work sample is simulating something that you're physically going to do when you join the organization in that job. And what that allows us is to understand more than just experience and knowledge or memory, basically, is can you actually apply yourself? And then the last one is a structured interview. So same questions built off the requirements of the job, asked to all the candidates in an interview, whether this is through Wamly, which is through technology, or whether it is face-to-face in a boardroom or a Teams call. So all four of those will give you a data point. And if you can then combine those data points and put them together, that's the best way to understand if someone's going to be successful in their role. I hope I explained that well.
You explained that beautifully. And I want to make sure that we do come back on track with the conversation, really talking about Wamly as an evolution. But the opportunity to get deep into this is just showing that there's a lot of complication towards hiring, because human beings are very complex people, right? So the science of this and being able to do it properly, and the opportunity and the number of problems in this value chain is just really massive. So even just simplifying it down to that, and I hope just as a short takeaway, like just now, that how to simply go about doing this. Cognitive ability, personality instruments is make sure that you've got some psychometrics. The Enneagram doesn't count. Myers-Briggs doesn't count. 16 personalities don't use those things for hiring, right? But basically get a proper psychometrist or industrial psychologist to help with those psychometrics. Then the work sample is actually like, as Fran said, get someone to actually do a sample of what the work would be like. That is a valid predictor over the point of education and experience, because like, can they actually do the job? You can see that validly. And then the structured interviews is like, make sure that you're prepared and asking them relevant things around what they've actually experienced in the past. So that's just the framework, because even anything we build in a recruitment process for tech, also, there's this responsibility with what it is that we know to build it right? And not just build the tech.
Cam, let me circle back to your actual question after that rant, because there's a good segue back into we started speaking about my perspective on the science. And the evolution is, now I'm looking at the industry and I'm seeing that there are these silos, whether it's departments or humans or skill sets. And I'm looking at how this hiring journey is breaking. Even if you have the right skills in attracting, managing, screening, assessing, selecting, video interviewing, it's still fragmented, so it takes long. The data is still scattered. So the evolution of Wamly is to ensure that the science gets implemented in the right stages of the hiring funnel. 2, it's taking away, and I don't want to call it a burden because it's not, but it's taking away the workload of individuals in our organizations to have to manually go and do all of that by just having it in our tech. But then thirdly, it's creating this seamless experience for all three stakeholders involved, HR, line managers, and candidates, where it's fun to go through this. It's easy to set it up, but the data I'm getting back is already packaged in a way, commercially and practically, that there's very little room for mistakes. And I can actually just do my thing, and that's get through the noise and end up with the right person in the seat. And so that's part of the evolvement, is science into a single end-to-end system that's easy to use, affordable, and makes a real impact.
Love it. Now, if I want to go further out of the HR IOP world, right? I want to get almost the investor deck version, right? In terms of HR tech, I don't know HR tech. I want to know about the business, right? So what's the shift now? What's the change? Like what does the market need? Because I mean, you're solving a broader one and a broader problem now, right? You've just mentioned a lot of like you know the space so well, right? So for the different stakeholders, the different pain points, what's the market need? What's the shifts? What's the kind of what's the competition look like now compared to previously? And how are you really positioning yourself to tackle on this new go-to-market that you're on?
I don't think the market needs anything else than it needed 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The market needs talent. The market needs to be able to hire people. The speed and the efficiency that they need to do it now is vastly different than it used to be. And it will
Right.
continue to accelerate because of the war for talent, because of AI and technology, and because skill sets can now move around and the candidates have decisions and preferences like never before. I interviewed someone 2 weeks ago, told like they started asking like seriously intense questions. And this was someone with 1 year of experience, right? 1 year of experience. And this individual was sitting across me going, why do you have these values? What's your social impact? Where do you see the business in 5 years? What can I expect if I join from a culture perspective? What are you going to do with these 4 skills that I've acquired in Paris last year? And I sat there and I was like, holy shit, like, well done for this individual. But I can't remember an interview that went like that 3 years ago, 5 years ago. And I definitely, as hell, 13 years ago when I started my career, didn't have a single question to ask the panel. I just really wanted the job. So the persona of the candidates, if they're skillful, has changed. And so practically you can't take 6 weeks to fill a vacancy anymore. You can't not get back to CAM amongst all your steps that you're trying to move people through. So well done. We like your CV. Wait for us to reach out. We'll set up the interview. And then it takes 2 weeks. That person's gone. Okay, so you asked why. Those are some of my thoughts.
So just to expand on that in terms of my thought as well, is like one, if we had to look at the best talent for the role, the best talent for the role is actually not looking for a job right now. That's why headhunters exist, right? And so that's the first thing. But at the end of the day, is that whether you're deliberately headhunting them and plugging them into the hiring process, you're still wanting to be opening the applications. But then let's say the next tier, the ones that are actually hiring but are the best talents of the hiring pool, you're not the only one, right? They're definitely out there. They're applying properly, but they're going to be nabbed up quite quickly, and they're probably at second or third interview in another recruitment process by the time they've even applied for your role. So if you're not doing this quickly, you're now gonna go from, you've got the A plus players, you're now going to miss on the A players, and you might even miss the B players, and you have to settle for C. But then you just blame it on the fact that it was like, this is actually just the best hire that we could get. And it was like, no, it wasn't. If you were just Foster, then you could have gotten better as well.
Were you just quoting Pat Lencioni's? Do you know
Actually, no, I'm
Patrick?
quoting my investor because he just talks about A players,
Okay.
B players all the time.
That's amazing. Fascinating book. But anyway, you're bang on. The problem is the same. We need to fill the vacancy with the right person for the right role at the right time. What has changed in terms of the market? Obviously, technology, right? As much as organizations understand that they need to digitize, some of them are getting it right, some aren't. Some are immediately going to an international provider because they have the funds, but they aren't really doing enough work to contextually understand what they need for their context. Some are over digitizing. My example earlier around, I've got between 5 and 15 systems, one for every single thing. And then I end up at the end going, actually don't know how to put all of this together and I can't use the data. So that's the market landscape. I want to be biased and ignorant, maybe even slightly arrogant, in a nice way, and say that we've done a lot of work in terms of educating the HR hiring tech landscape in South Africa. If I look at the players, so I'm touching slightly on your competition question. If I look at the players and the HR tech that's out there from a local perspective, so this is now me excluding a Workday or a Success Factors or a Bamboo HR or a Greenhouse, a Workable. Those are some of the examples of which you could kind of want to maybe put into the category of competitors. If I exclude them, there's not much going on from like innovation, 2 releases a month in terms of product progression and updates, which is, by the way, what we're doing. Um, the evolvement by listening to customer feedback and then understanding what do you build next that delivers to that problem or solves that pain. I haven't seen a lot of that. And so obviously as a business now, we've entered into a different kind of on a different page in terms of, if you want to call it, the category. And someone asked me the other day, like, what are you now? And I said, well, remember our slogan 5 years ago? We want to help the world hire better people faster. Nothing in our mission, nothing in our vision directly zoomed into video interview. Video interview was the start of delivering on that mission and vision. And today that is still exactly the same. We want to help the world hire better people faster. How? Wamly, building out the tech. What are we? We're an end-to-end hiring solution. From attract, screen, video, psychometric assessments, background checks integrated into the platform to do what? To deliver a full digital profile of Cameron on one screen with all the data points needed to make a decision. So we have fantastic relationships with other players, and nothing in the Wamly journey is around catching someone or beating someone else. This is our journey, and us listening to our hundreds of customers giving us amazing feedback and telling us what their pain is, and us just following that magic.
I'm going to think out loud for about 90 seconds before I actually ask a question, because I've got a couple of variables going on in my head. Okay, so my understanding of you and your journey so far is the fact that the one piece that's coming to mind is that if you took this more comprehensive solution, this hiring solution, hiring tech solution to the market 4 years ago, you probably wouldn't have succeeded as much as you did. And the reason why, to your point, is you spent so much time building this trust and this ecosystem and this community, having these conversations on the podcast, having this dinner, having these events. But not only is there the learning, but it's really influencing a lot of the narrative and dialogue, because I also know you and your background, which is really still in consulting, in a lot of HR tech, in a lot of hiring. And so this shift and change means that you've influenced the entire HR industry, South Africa, whether it's a couple of degrees on course, but towards more effective hiring, right? And so I think the timing for you to be able to transfer that there is one thing I want to think out loud, because the other point of it is, it's like there are so many application tracking systems out there, right? ATS, 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 right? And so, and that's the point, is when people think about a system to help with recruitment, that's all that is. It's just like, I just need something to track all the candidates that are going on there, but it's not actually helping solve recruitment and hiring challenges. But the crazy thing is there's a lot of people in these roles, right, where they don't even know what their problems are, because the level of knowledge of effective hiring, is actually kind of only given to people that go and do an honors or master's degree in industrial psychology, right? And so, and that's just a huge, just like systemic level problem. So not only is that there's the education gap, right? There's the education gap that you've solved through the conversations that you've had. And the go-to-market that you had originally was around solving this very niche problem in this value chain, to bring that traction, but have this also these leads, these people providing value. But then also, it was the one thing we haven't spoken like totally transparently about is the reason why you've decided to change now. And a big part of it is obviously the pull and what's possible, but there's also another reason in terms of realizing that it's still this challenge of 9 to 12 different systems that you were, even though solving an amazing value problem, inadvertently contributing towards. So I say this in hindsight because I think the readiness to change now is incredible, but the decision why to change came from a bit of pain and problem on your side. And if you're open to share that, would love to hear it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, firstly, when, and this is now specifically to on your side, the founder listeners, when you try and get into the market with an idea, and you're trying to build a business, whatever the case might be, like, you have to identify a problem, of course. You have to identify your ideal customer profile, and you have to come with something that they believe they need, because it's going to solve their problem. Now, obviously, Fran, that's 101. Guess what? It's not that easy to do. And we don't even have to pull up the stats around startups that don't see their first year anniversary. So the decision to bring video interview was obviously based on, firstly, my experience in all of this, but there was a fun element around it, right? It was niche, it was new, like it wasn't done here yet. There were one or two international players that 5 years later Wamly has kind of moved out, so that was like our in. And but then the community building, the thought leadership, you speak about changing and shifting, even if it is just a couple of degrees, the industry's thinking. And that's where the excitement lived for me, apart from the product development. And we were super cognizant of who we appointed, and I had a great co-founder. He's still alive, but he's not part of Wamly anymore. But like the ingredients and knife capital, like all of that was knitted together beautifully. But it freed up me to be me, and that me was speaking at conferences, speaking to clients, presenting workshops. I mean, you mentioned the word consulting. Up until 2025, we never charged a single rand for any consulting, but we did a ton of it. And it was all very authentic and genuine around getting the audience to understand that in some areas they aren't skillful yet. And rightfully so. It wasn't their problem. Like if I'm tasked at finding CVs, why should I put a scientific hat on around predictive validity? I shouldn't. But the more I started understanding the landscape and this conversation, the more I realized that yes, video interview can save you a ton of time. And it did. It was and it still to this day is a core part of our product. But there are so many other avenues and opportunities to streamline this, to have an even bigger impact, and to get back to the real problem. Here's the news, Cam. You can still appoint someone without a video interview. Right? So it's not like accounting software or your payroll solution. Like you're in deep shit if you don't have that. But go and tell a client to pull the plug on their candidate pool database. They'll be very hesitant. Go and ask a client to rip out a platform where they do onboarding. They'll be very hesitant. And so all of that understanding while hearing the problems and listening to the issues guided the decision around it. But back to your point around being vulnerable, as much as we could sell Wamly video interview, we also had a big churn issue. And this is the fascinating part around churn, because if you'd read any book and you speak to any founder, it's like, cool, take the top 20. Well, every single client that churns, do an exit interview, understand the reasons why, take that insight, bring it back into the business and improve. And I don't think, and I'm really going to be truthful and honest now, maybe 3 out of hundreds, 3 told us that they don't like the tech. Literally less than 5. The churn reason continued to address the bigger problem that Wamly had no influence over. So it was that, when you break up with someone in a relationship and you're like, it's not you, it's me. Like I continuously felt like that. It's like, Fran, we love you. We love Wamly. You're so amazing. Your customer support, your content, your this, your that, your brand, your UI, your UX. It's beautiful. It's amazing. We'll be back, Fran. Love you. Cheers. And it's the weirdest feeling. Like I wish they would yell at me. I wish they would swear. I wish they would tell me the tech is shit. I like whatever, but it was never that. It was always like, our problem is to the left of the funnel or to the right of the funnel. And obviously as a business wanting to grow and go, move forward, and you've got investors and you want to go, like you had to. And so it happened very organically. That's some of the insights. Maybe one last comment is, and again, back to the founders listening, this has to be fun, because it's like, can I say it? It's fucking hard, right? I don't know if I can swear on the founder files, but like it is damn hard to do this. And so if you're not enjoying it, it's, in my opinion, nearly impossible. So how do I link that back to answering your question? I want Wamly to evolve because it's part of the fun. I want to see how the dev team can take a conceptual idea up on my window and come back with a use case, and then the UI UX team designs it, and the next moment backend is coding it, and the next moment there's a product update and release notes goes out and our MPS shoots through the roof and everybody's just loving it. And I'm like, shit, we listened, we designed, we engineered, we built, we delivered, we get the good feedback, usage goes up. Like there's a dopamine hit in that for me personally that just makes the continuation fun, as opposed to, well, we're a video interview and we're doing really, really well and we're the best in South Africa. And so let's just continue to do the best that we can do in video interview in South Africa and not care about the problems to the left and to the right.
The one thing I like to talk about is the difference between like the customer acquisition value proposition and then the customer retention one. And I think we often confuse we often really confuse the two, because the reason why a customer is going to stay with you is very different to the reason why they buy from you. Because in many situations, whenever you're initiating a kind of change in how they're working, the process of buying and onboarding does educate them. And so when pre-educated versus post-educated on a problem means that the reason why they're buying now is totally different. And I mean, like the person that we both know quite well, Simon Ellis, right? He speaks about it with Jim, is that like they asked their customers like why they bought from them. And there was like, please say because we got the best product. Please say it's because we got the best product. They were like, oh no, just because we like you guys, right? It's like, the reason why I'm staying with you is because your product's amazing. And I was like, okay, well, cool. I like both of those answers, but I don't know how to scale the likable part. I can scale the product, right? And so and speaking to you is that this is where so many founders I see almost get it that other way around. It's like, because they're so in love with the problem, they get the retention part right. And you knew that there's still so much from a hiring perspective, but because you knew this ecosystem so well, it's like, this is a thing that's going to sell, and a customer acquisition problem, right? And the value proposition, this niche thing, taking some pain out of the process. But then the reason why they're staying was, well, they weren't, right? And that presented a bigger problem for you. So thank you for sharing that, because I mean, it's just the honest one, because we need to get both right if we're going to scale properly. And this is again the whole really the reason for the evolution, is because you had all this runway, you were succeeding, you had investors even though you didn't even need their money, right? It's like there's all this indicator. You won Startup of the Year award. Like there's just so much going on. Your customers love you, all the NPS, but it's still that one churn number that at the foundation of a business is that if you can have your customer retention is low, the lower the better, because then that's actually where a lot of scalability really comes from.
Absolutely.
So,
Can I make a
with
comment on
of
that? Just
course you
a
can.
quick comment on those two. Yeah. When you're in the sales cycle, there's always this kind of counterbalance between the closer the product is to PMF, the less of a sales skill you need, and then kind of the other way around. I mean, I've never spoken to anybody at ChatGPT. I've never seen any content from them. I don't even know if they've got a marketing department. Like, who gives a shit? Because it's just so damn good. Where the other side is exactly true. So the question then becomes, how do you want to do this? Do you want to spend 3 years and build something like, well, no one knows about it, and you release this insane thing that just takes off, and before you know it, you're a unicorn? There are very few examples of that. And the reason why we feel but there are is because the ones that actually get to do it, everybody in the world knows about and uses. But like, if you zoom out a bit, the other way is the more like the preferred way. Or like, okay, I have a network, I've got credibility, people trust me. Can I go on a journey with you? Can I show you what I have? I'll never forget Wamly in the first year, like in the first 3 months, it literally collapsed at a client, like in front of the client. And what do you have then? You've got a relationship, trust, credibility, and the willingness to just try again. That's all you've got. But as you scale, you can't rely on charisma and sales capability and deep relational connections. It can only take you so far. I mean, Wamly is now being used in 147 countries, and I've got
That's
no
amazing,
idea
for the
where.
record. Well done.
Thank you. I've got no idea who's doing Wamly right now, where in the world. I see those stats once a month from a country like specific perspective. but I've got no idea who's doing it now. So my charisma, my energy, my passion, which I've always had, which is true and authentic, and I'm like this when I'm not talking about Wamly as well. That can't help me in Finland or in Greece. It's only the product. And so that balance and how you kind of morph and grow with that, I guess, is part of the startup to scale up journey.
What you immediately make me think about is actually a conversation I recorded the other day with another founder, but he's also the founder of a software development agency, and they've been going for 20 years, and he's all about solving complex technology. And I asked him the point of I mean, I don't know a thing about, I've never written a line of code, right? What makes technology complex? And the reality is the business problem is complex. So the example given there is like Uber Eats, right? And this is also, again, one of the stickiest businesses, value propositions, pieces of tech. Also because it's so simple to use, right? And it's a no-brainer to use. But think about the complexity behind that. Think about the logistics, the tracking, the payment gateways, the stock management required, the vendor management, the switching on and off, and it's just so much complexity to that back end. But because they've owned that in their business and they've made a very simple interface, you can have this product you can have product-driven marketing because it sells itself. ChatGPT is a good example too, because I can't even wrap my head around how complex the actual back end part, besides even just the back end of the software, just the back end part of the business of ChatGPT, like the philosophical thinking that you need to get into to organize these models and AI, just the depth of thinking required this and just human nature and getting the language right is just I struggle to wrap my head around that. But then they've made it so simple that it's like the whole reason why I started using ChatGPT was because everyone else was talking about how amazing it was. And I'm like, yeah, it can't be that great. Start using it. I was like, holy shit, right? Like this thing
Exactly.
is amazing.
Exactly.
I equate that to your points around Wamly too, in terms of why you're in 147, 148,
47.
147 countries, and you don't even know the people that are buying that, and that's because the product that you built was solving something quite complicated for them to do, right? But in such a simple way, with such an easy way of onboarding. And the point is, you owned that complexity and how complicated that was in the beginning, right? And this is the kind of hard part, right? And I guess I'm just going to leave this thought in the air because if you're solving a simple problem with a great product, it can be easy to pick up and buy. For example, the simple problem is I just want food delivered to my house in the next hour, right? Simple problem, very complex to solve. But if you're solving a very complex problem, like helping entrepreneurs scale their business with a lot less stress and a little bit more time on their hands and more profit, it's a lot harder to sell and to buy, to understand the nuance of everything that's going on. Trust me, this is hard selling what I do. And I think that's the nature of it. So I guess I've just figured out the segue of where I'm going with all of this. You are now making your product more complex because it's now solving more problems, but you're still addressing the market need. So I guess now just the simple view is the product was one feature. That feature is still not going away. Like you said, it's part of the product stack. Just explain to me what the new product is.
Yeah. Let me also just not correct, but add on to what you said. The complexity, if you want to call it that, of what Wamly is now is less complex than what the complexity of the actual problem on the ground was and still is and will remain to be. So what do I mean by that? Everybody needs to find talent. How you do it, different conversation. Everybody needs then to manage the volumes of the incoming traffic. Everybody then needs to make decisions around what do I do with the volumes of CVs or spreadsheets or emails or whatever it is that you're sitting with in front of you. Like, how do I make a decision now around what and who to move forward? Then there's the next step and the next step and the next step. And then finally you make an offer. So that complexity of the hiring landscape, if you try and do it accurately, thinking back to the validity ladder, is at play regardless of the tech that you do use or don't use. The worst way to do it, which a lot of organizations, especially when you're smaller, do, is someone refers one person to you, you have a quick coffee chat and you make an offer. That's the worst, but that's not complex, but your risk in that is enormous, and the cost of a bad hire is going to kill you, and then you're going to regret doing that. So that's why people don't do it that often anymore. But okay, so now we're building Wamly in a
Okay, sorry,
way
I
that
just imagine a whole bunch
addresses.
of people in the audience just cringing right now. I was like, I still do that.
That was me. I've been there, and guys, I'm not the superhero here. I've also done it in my previous life, so we're all human.
It's
But
tempting.
it's tempting, right? And especially when it's a referral and you trust the person who referred them, or it's a family member or a friend or whatever. But let's not go into that. Okay, so now we're building Wamly out, and we're adding the capability to address this complex landscape and all these steps in the process, but in a way that's simple and easy to use and do, so that you're not creating this dependency on the deep expert in the organization, which most organizations don't even have, to come in and run all of this at scale. So how do you equip the entire human capital as well as line manager landscape with tech that's science-backed, innovatively designed, with beautiful UI that's easy to use, not compromising on the science behind how do I get to the right person in a way that's understandable and enjoyable? So that's kind of the intro to what we've built, is that's the why. Okay. So what do we have? You can think of Wamly now as a enterprise solution with various modules. Why do I say modules? Because I know not everybody is just immediately going to flip over and use everything that we've got. There are contracts in place, there are relationships established, there's politics involved. You're a multinational, someone in Europe has made a decision around what you're allowed to use and what you're not allowed to use. You can imagine this, Cam. 90% of the Wamly clientele right now has us in the box of video interview. They don't have us yet in their mind as the end-to-end solution. And so you're not just going to flip a switch and all of a sudden it's everything Wamly. So it's modular. And what are the modules? We've got an attraction module, so how to get the candidates in. And there we've leveraged, which I'm very proud of, some marketing principles in the B2C world around ads and ad design and social media. Let me not let the cat out of the bag, but maybe create some excitement and interest. So there's an attraction module. There's a funnel and a candidate management capability that we never used to have, which I'm very excited about. You mentioned the word ATS earlier. I'll never refer to Wamly as an ATS. Not now, not ever. For me, an ATS is one piece of technology that makes managing of data easier. It's got nothing to do with filling a vacancy or hiring or predicting success in a job. I'm not criticizing ATS. I think ATS is a fantastic piece of the puzzle that does save a lot of time and admin. But if people aren't applying, you have nothing in your ATS. And if you don't know what to do with the hundreds in your ATS, you're either going to make the wrong hiring decision or not fill your vacancy at all. Okay. But I wanted to be on record to say we'll never refer to ourselves as an ATS, and I don't have any problems with ATSs. But there's a funnel management and a candidate management module or section that's integrated now into Wamly. Then there's the skills test, which is part of the work sample conversation we had earlier. So you're able to assess technical capability. We've got the one-way video interview, which is a structured questions that the candidates answer while being recorded. Then we've integrated with a global assessment provider to be able to deliver psychometric assessments to our clients, to the candidates that the clients have in their Wamly platforms. Personality, cognitive ability, learning agility, motivations, and team roles, all in a beautiful match report. And then we've integrated with leading South African background check providers. So we don't design our own, obviously. We've integrated and created the capability for you to bring your own API, and we can hook you up. Or if you don't have it, you can just use our defaults. But basically, the steps in the hiring funnel, Wamly now takes care of from attraction all the way to offer, by having it all in one place, seamlessly integrated with a great experience and all your data of the candidate on one screen.
So the previous business model was the usual SaaS, right? And I'm assuming it was got to do with a number of credits or a number of users and seats, right? Kind of that's the point. You can answer that in the process of answering my actual question. Talk to me about the new business model, because the way that you describe sounds amazing, but I'm like, sounds expensive.
Because it's modular, and I fundamentally have always believed in this principle. So let's go to video interview only. Yes, you're right. It was user based, so you had to decide how many seats you wanted, but you can switch seats. Because I really got irritated at varsity to have to pay for the gym when I don't gym. So I didn't want to kind of do that again. So I like this idea and this principle of giving the client the choice around how they want to deploy Wamly in their context, their environment, so that it matches their needs, but also their wallet. Okay, so how does the evolution commercial model work? It's still a SaaS business. It's still subscription-based recurring revenue. But how you build your subscription is now very flexible off the modules that I just described. And so what this actually does, which I'm very excited about, is in the sales cycle, when you get to the negotiation phase, it's a collaboration and a transactional conversation, as opposed to, here it is, take it or leave it, and you better take it because I promise you it's going to give you ROI. And the client now, because of the upsell and cross-sell opportunities, can add the modules as they go. And this creates additional revenue for us, but additional value for the client, again, in a way that they want to deploy it. So we have many massive enterprise clients that have on 3-5 year contracts with Workday, as an example. Let me use Workday as an example, right? We're not kicking that out anytime soon. So how can they still partner with Wamly? And then there's an API and a webhook conversation on the side of it. But how can they still partner with us for their need in the space that they need to use us in a commercial way that makes sense for them? So subs, SaaS, yes, very tailored. You can customize it to conversation with us. We do have 4 tiers now, but it's still a conversation. But then what I really like is additional revenue from a consulting perspective. So there's a services part now, part of Wamly, which we never used to have in the past, which is awesome. And then 2 or 3 other things that I'm working on that we can do episode 3 in about 18 months from now on, which will be additional revenue streams, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, you can bank on episode 3. Man, I was just also having this moment of how much reminded I love just industrial organizational psychology. And the reason why is because implicit in everything that you were just talking about was I can just see the intuitive baked in change management principles, understanding how the switching costs, how difficult it is to change behavior. And the fact that not only is it modularizable, makes sense from a business model perspective, but where we can meet you is at different points. And also from a change management perspective, it's not a replace, it's not a switching cost. We'll plug in to your other system. Right, and it's fine. Keep using that. But I know that the process of doing that, the slight subtle shift and change, eventually going to be like, we're using Wamly a lot. There's loads of value. Why are we doing both? Like, makes sense. Let's just get modules 3 and 1, and then we're good to go. So I just love that because it's really thought through. It's very sticky, and just strategically, I think it's fantastic. So
Thank you.
it brings me on to the next question, but it takes me like 7 steps back. The moment that you decided to make this shift and make this evolution, how did you go about choosing what modules to develop? What was your product development roadmap, right? How did you make the decision on what actually needs to be built, where our resources need to go to? Because it's quite a journey to have built out all these modules before like releasing this to market now outside of the one. So how did you make that decision of how we prioritize what we really build and develop?
Okay, so firstly, very important, we didn't sit back in the dark and just start developing these modules, and now we're ready to kind of bring all 6 to the market, right? One day when I write my book, this will be a chapter, and I'm super excited about this next one-liner. How Wamly used Wamly to build Wamly. Okay, so let me unpack that. Last year, January, I approached 2 of our top clients. I mean, maybe top is the wrong word. They're massive enterprises, very well known in South Africa, and they have to this day massive volumes in specific areas where they are hiring for. High turnover. They literally need to appoint thousands every year in these specific roles. So I approached these two HR execs who we now have a very well-established relationship with. I trust them. They trust me. They trust us. They've seen us. They've been on a journey with us for a couple of years. And I said, I want to solve this problem for you. And here's my thinking. And I drew it out on my window. And I said, are you willing to partner with me and go on this journey and collaborate and co-create the solution with me? 80% of the solution is not in Wamly. And so when they said yes, we started puzzling together a solution that had Wamly in it, but it was only 20% of the solution because of the current capability of our system at the time. So WordPress, WhatsApp, other assessment providers, an ATS, like external providers and elements that formed part of the puzzle. And the product was something different. It wasn't a piece of tech. It was an interview-ready candidate with all the data points on one screen. And we went on this journey with them. And I had to move all my account managers immediately into a new department. It's called Wamly Talent. And we can speak about, if there's time, around what the hell I've ended in account management. But basically, completely shifted the business, changed the priority. And I said, guys, there are now 9 people, but at the time there were 3. I said, your job is now to assume the role of our client, the HR department, and use this production line of pieces of the puzzle to give this client an interview-ready candidate that they can shop. And that informed the dev roadmap iteratively. Daily stand-ups, weekly check-ins, WhatsApp groups, quarterly reviews. Both the clients after the POC were just blown away, signed up on annual. It totally shifted and changed and validated this idea that I had, and it spearheaded the development of our product with live daily feedback, small feedback loops back internally to dev team and to us and to me with the client. And that's how we got here. So it wasn't this conceptual, I actually know what they need. Let's knuckle down, take 2 million and go and dev it for a year and a half. Like, it's been weekly for the last 2 years with these partners that backed me and backed us to do this.
And that's also the beauty of a launch, man, and going to market, is because it's like, hey, here we are. And then it's like, well, let me tell you about the 18-month journey that it took to get here. But I love what you said, because there's so many cliched statements that come out of this, but also gives so much flavor to it. For example, do the stuff that doesn't scale. Make sure that you're actually solving the problem that your customer wants solved. Like, there's these cliched statements that we always like, and it's those fundamentals and basics, right, in entrepreneurship. And the point there is, it's like, what is the main problem? Interview ready candidate, right? All on one page, information that I can access there. Very simply defined problem, very complicated one to actually solve, right? So there's a lot that needs to happen there. And doing the stuff that doesn't scale is, it's like, okay, I've got to do all the kind of work to really get you there. Like, I'm assuming there's everything from emailing, maybe phoning candidates, like actually getting into roll up the sleeves recruitment side of things. And then as you start getting these patterns, as you start seeing what's kind of working on this side, you start seeing that on their side, the feedback of what it is that they are enjoying, what it is that they're needing, where they're seeing the values, you kind of tweak and improve. And it's like, okay, well, I've done this a couple of times. Let me just make that more efficient, right? Let me build that into technology. Let me make this self-service, or let me make it automated. And that's really just this process. But I mean, there's the cliche theory part of it, but I think that at the end of the day, the hardest part that you got right is the journey you went on. Again, the readiness to be able to do this, of having such high trust relationships with people that are extremely busy executives, to have this level of buy-in to what is that you're building, that they're willing to give you such frequent iterative feedback. And not only the relationship, but also the belief of the fact that I know when this is right, this is going to solve a huge problem for my business too. And I think that's the patience that's also required, is that when you are, whatever it is that you're building is how do we break down our vision, not try and make it a reality too quickly, get the people whose problem that we're actually solving, how can I get the trust and relationship to work closely with them and get this kind of iterative feedback until such point that the problem is solved, and then launch and then realize. So if I had to, I don't actually really ever ask this question on this podcast, but just because of that process, what I want to know is like, what would you tell yourself again in terms of getting to the same results? Because the high 2020 hindsight is like, you've done this perfectly according to the entrepreneurship textbook.
Yeah, that's an existential question, right? And one that no matter where you are on your journey, you should stop and reflect back and go, okay, how could we have done this differently or better? I have a very personal, it's personally linked to my personality and my personal story answer for you. And that is, my entire career has been an accidental profession. I, at the age of 15, knew nothing about the world of entrepreneurship or tech or B2B or SaaS. At the age of 25, I didn't know. I was on my way to the States to go and play tennis. I didn't know about industrial psych until the fourth year of my studies in Poch. Okay, so why do I start your question with that? Is we and I follow magic here at Wamly. Now, that can be defined in many ways. I define it by, like, where's the synergy? Where's the energy? Where's the magic? You can replace that with problem. You can replace that with pain. You can replace it with a burning desire to solve an issue. And I really deeply enjoy the journey. People often ask me, okay, Fran, when are you going to exit? And I'm like, I don't know. And I don't deeply care at this moment about a date and a time and a who and a when and a how, because I'm really enjoying every step of the journey. So even the last 18 months, my word, Cam, I screened videos as the CEO. I phoned candidates. I burnt money. I didn't care about a pricing model. I didn't worry about profitability. All I wanted to figure out is, can we solve this? Can we do it? Is it possible? We'll re-engineer efficiency later. We'll optimize the process later. Yes, AI needs to come in. Yes, this, yes, that. Integrations, build the tech, build those modules. But none of that matters if you can't solve the problem. And it's in that journey where the magic was for me. It's in that conversation, hearing that we just hit our first hire. We just hit our first 10 hires. We're over 1,000 hires now with one client in 6 months. 1,000 hires. Not a nilly-willy CV that they got from someone that they like because this person looks like the line manager. Scientifically validated, the best for the role, over 1,000 people. And so what would I do differently? I would potentially throw more people and more resources to it. I would burn more money faster. But remember, this is now hindsight. It's now easy for me to say that because I look at the bank balance now and I look at the revenue now. But like, if I knew what I know now, I would actually trust my combination of data and intuition 18 months ago and see if I can do this faster and get to where we are now in maybe 12 months and not 18. That would be the only thing. Like, there weren't massive mistakes. Like, we didn't pick the wrong client or go about the solution in a wrong way. There is a trap in doing something like this, and it is complacency. You can quickly become complacent when you start seeing results and you start seeing smiles and you start seeing revenue, and you're like, oh, I'm there. And now I just rinse and repeat. And if I want more, I just appoint a bigger team, and and so I'm very cognizant of that. Is this for me is now 5% of it, and the roadmap and the thinking and the ideas and what our product owners and the CTO and the and Manco and all of them are busy with is extremely exciting, because it's like really just starting now. And I'm very focused on the Wamly team not being complacent and not accepting that this is now it. Like, the one thing it is PMF. Like, everybody will tell you, when you hit it, you'll know. I'm honestly saying this with respect. Is there's some people I'm not sending out proposals to. Obviously, I communicate this to them, but they want more of this, and I don't want to burn our team and our capability where we are now because and hence the Series A raise.
Please give me more information and detail there, because you just ended that sentence as if I thought you were going to add on more. Like, just hence the Series A raise. Like, it's totally obvious for a business that's clearly like got loads of money, right? Like, give me more.
There's two ways to go about this, right? We can organically grow, and as there's profit and there's margin, we can appoint more devs and be more aggressive in terms of marketing, etc. Grow the sales and the account management team and all the resources required to do this. That's the one way, and it's very possible. And a lot of businesses and business owners decide to do that. For whatever reason, control, shareholder equity, fun, energy. Um, I've decided a different approach. Like, one of the reasons why, when you and I first spoke, we had 5 years of runways. I didn't want to waste money without truly understanding where to deploy the money. And so we were trotting along with a lot of cash in the bank because I didn't just want to squander money. Like, I wanted to be dead sure that, yes, this is where we now want to deploy resources. And I feel that's where we now. So Series A is to get an investor, and we're going to be very picky about our investor because we don't need it. Again, saying that with respect. We're very picky around who we want and what we want to do. So firstly, we want money to be able to allocate and accelerate development, marketing, product, sales, account management, all the functions required to build a business like this. We want to officially start our international expansion. So when I said 147 countries, that's where a Wamly gets done monthly. That's not Wamly offices. So we want to proactively now penetrate a territory, one or two territories per year, strategic regions first, and then like we'll build it up, which obviously you need resources for. And an investor that's willing to go on that journey with us and not just give us money. So can you open up doors? Can you introduce us to a different territory or a market? Can you help us with introductions? Can you help us with exit readiness, our DD room, all of those things to help us gear up for expansion, growth, and exit eventually, which again, there's no timeline associated with it because I'm really still having fun. And that's the reason for the Series A is I believe the time is right now. I'm also very aware of, and we were 4 years ago, like I remember being on a podcast, it might have been yours, where I said, hey, like LinkedIn can roll out video interview tomorrow with the resources that they've got, and they never did it. Same now, like with AI and the rapid speed of which technology is going, someone can build what we've got. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I mean, it's not rocket science. We're not flying to Mars, right? So I want us to kind of, while the iron is warm, strike, really accelerate. The roadmap is very clear around where I want to bring in AI, what we want to develop next, where the modules should go, how it should link up, how it should morph. And thankfully, we don't have a strategic problem. We don't have a development, what to develop question anymore. It's now just around, give me the resources and let's go. Because I don't want to say no to people asking for a proposal.
So, Fran, given how epic the situation is, I'm just trying to sit here and think back to like, well, what are your problems now? Like, what do you? I mean, because like they're good problems to have, but I think what's keeping you up at night, right? I mean, you've just gone to market with your new evolution, right? You're in the process of the Series A. You're super crystal clear. You don't need the money, but you want the money, right? It's like, I'm happy to wait, but I don't want to. You're saying all the right things, and and you're having fun, and it's amazing. Excuse me if I'm a little bit skeptical, right? And I'm like, where's the
Yeah,
stress
what's the
coming in?
catch?
Where's the anxiety? Where's the maybe existential? What's the catch, dude? What's keeping you up at night? besides all this?
Well, for the listeners watching this on YouTube, like please go back to episode 36 and go and check out my hair. I wasn't gray back then. I'm like a silver fox now, so it's real. Cam, there's a lot, and I'm going to be radically honest about it because it's our number one value and I live by it. The very first thing is imposter syndrome for me. Like, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to be so excited? What is who and what is Wamly and Francois de Wet going to look like in Dubai or in Australia or in Europe? What is the audience going to look there when they listen to me? Will I be able to create a community there? So that's the first thing. And I mean, that's an internal psychological thing that I'm very aware of and I'm dealing with it because remember, I didn't set out to do this. This was not my 16-year-old dream. And I've been reading every single book and attending all the MBA classes and listening to every single SaaStr podcast there is with this beautiful, like I'm following energy and magic, right? So that's the first thing is the belief that I and we can go to the next level. Secondly, our own hires keeps me up at night because as incredible as the team is now, there's been a lot of mistakes made. And anybody that understands and knows this, what I'm talking about now, that's the founder's responsibility. The first 20 to 30 hires, that's on me. And I've made mistakes and I don't want to repeat them. Now, like crazy notion, Wamly's in the business of helping clients make hiring decisions. What do you mean, Fran, you can't get it right? Yes, I make mistakes. Like we follow the process and I end up with the top 2 or 3 and I sit in that interview and I have made hiring mistakes. And so the control as we scale and grow of me and my involvement with past successes and mistakes is definitely something I'm very aware of because the research will tell you the smaller you are, the higher the impact of the hire, but that's not our culture. We're very open. We're very transparent. I'm dead set on keeping our culture, even if we hit 50 people. Yes, there'll be involvement and it'll change, but we're very focused in Wamly on our values and our culture, and I don't want to lose that by just letting go of the control of hires. And so that definitely keeps me awake at night. There's a big part of being CEO that's not actually part of my personality. That's a stretch for me. I'm not a financials person. I'm not a legal person. I don't really like board packs and DD rooms and pitch decks. Like, that's not me. Like, I had to learn all of those skills. I had to understand and learn a P&L and profit margins and profitability and all the economic metrics of a SaaS business. And it still doesn't come natural to me, but it's part of my seat and my job. And so it keeps me awake at night that I need to send investor updates. And now I'm going to open that up even more. And there might be international investors on board. And so thankfully, with the resources, I don't ever have to be in control of everything. I'm super open and vulnerable to appoint people next to me that are specialists in those roles. So a part of that keeping me awake at night is also the part where I'm like, okay, well, I'll go and hire a damn good CFO and I'll get good legal counsel, et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't tick that part for me like other CEOs. Like other CEOs aren't that comfortable to talk on a podcast like I am. You know, we all have our strengths. So I guess a lot of the keeping me awake at night is a lot to do with me. But then the team and, you know, what will the reception be abroad? Because as I said, it's not rocket science what we've built or like this crazy. The plan from an AI perspective, and I'm thinking from an industrial psychology perspective around where I want to take Wamly 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, that'll be mind-blowing because I've not been able to find a system globally now that can have all the data on one screen like you have in Wamly now. So that's already an edge for us. But the thinking around how to aggregate and pull all of this together scientifically in an even more intuitive way with AI is really exciting.
Love it, man. Love the radical honesty. Candor is one of our values at MetaVolve, so it definitely resonates and appreciate it. There's 3 things that came to mind that are a bit of a Venn diagram that I thought I'd share if it's useful.
Please do.
The first one is something I got from another podcast guest, but it was basically you know you're the right person for the job if you're the one that has the vision. Because if you didn't have the vision, you wouldn't be the guy. Right. So that's the first like kind of thing towards that. And I'm thinking about the imposter syndrome side of things. It's like you mentioned the whole UAE, etc. It's like, well, if you didn't have the vision, then you wouldn't be the person, right? And the fact that you do have the vision, but then like that for me is reinforcing. But then how do we not get cocky or
Yes.
arrogant with that thinking
Yes.
as well? And it's something that I heard recently that it was also really, I think, really transformative to me, is because it's the admitting that you don't know, I don't have the answer. Paradoxically, on the other side of admitting that is confidence, right? And so the point is, it's like, I believe that I'm the person. It's because I'm the one that has this vision. But in terms of getting there and all the things that need to happen in between, I have no idea. And then suddenly the weight's off the shoulders, the vision's still clear, and kind of confidence comes in because I'm going to figure it out. And then feeding into the final point is, it's like it's at this kind of scaling journey now, where it's this evolution of the business to having a complementary leadership team. And the way I like to think about leadership is as it's a function, not a person, right? And if we look at the leadership of a business as treat it as a function, how do we build out a complementary team where everyone can play towards their strengths, right? And play towards their excellence? Because fundamentally, that's how you're going to have fun, but also add the most value to the business. And that's also the wave that you're on. And just because you're the visionary doesn't mean you have to be the CEO, right? Like yes, we need job titles because there's the simplicity that people need of who's the person in charge kind of thing who makes the decisions. But really, it's the beauty of entrepreneurship is you can build that however you want to.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you for
I think
sharing. I appreciate that.
I'm very good at positive reframing, right? And so just from there is like those three things that I kind of like heard kind of brought together. Because yeah, man, you mentioned the 5% journey. I can understand why. And I think the 95% can be super intimidating. But I hope that gave a bit of peace or clarity to you. So, Fran, now moving forward, right? Obviously, this is it depends question, depending on what happens with the Series A, but the next 12 to 18 months, what is that going to look like for you and for Wamly?
Yeah. I mean, again, vision being different to the what, the how, the where. There are strategic milestones around embedding this, learning from it, like as optimistic and as excited how I sound, it's the progression of a new era. And now with it will come more challenges, more competitors, different product lines, different margins. Um, Not all of it's ours, so some of it's integrated and some of it's a partnership. And so the complexity has changed. We are sharing, we're sharing the solution, even though we control how we deploy it. Not all of it is ours and belongs to us, like a WhatsApp integration. Like, what is Meta doing with WhatsApp next month? I don't know. So excited to see that feedback and understand whether it lands in the way that I believe it will, but very open for whatever. I mean, way back then, Madness and I thought video interview will completely kill the market, and we'll be sipping our cocktails in Bali already, so, and it didn't play out like that. So very open and excited to see what and how this lands, and learn from our clients, which is a value we'll never stop. In fact, we'll double down on it now, even more so. But then I do really want to understand the international expansion opportunity, and how we are received and the impact that we can make in a market that is potentially have more buying power than South Africa, that maybe appreciates HR innovation more than the South African landscape does, because that's a reality. It's damn hard work to get an HR department to say, sure, we'll innovate and change our ways that have been stuck for the last 20 years. And we're so fortunate that the couple of hundred that are working with us are doing that. But let me promise you, there's thousands others that aren't willing at this moment. They say they want to, and they attend the conferences and they make the notes and they nod their head. But then when you're there in the conversation, they either ghost you or they don't want to. And so I'm excited to see what is the HR landscape like abroad. What is the buying power? What's the innovation and the appetite for technology and change in a department that traditionally does have a bit of an identity crisis. And you spoke about the seat around the table and budget, etc., etc. Those are all realities and truths. Excited and curious to understand if it's similar or different abroad. And then I guess, it would be silly not to mention this. I'm really deeply excited about the potential of AI in our platform. Like, I think there are so many use cases, and we are going to tread very carefully around our AI roadmap. It's been crafted, it's been approved by our board, and I think there's just so much opportunity for AI to assist and collaborate. At this moment, 2025, if you're listening to this and it's 2030 and you found this in the founder files somewhere in the warehouse and you're going, Fran, what are you talking about? At this moment, I don't believe AI should be telling us who to appoint without any human intervention. Like that just sounds, and maybe I'm just short-sighted, but I'm not too sure anybody will buy that yet. That's obviously the
No,
ultimate, right?
there's ethical
Like
studies proven the
ethics
amount of
and
bias
so
that's
many rabbit
that this stuff
holes. But
has. Mm-mm.
imagine the AI pops up on my screen and it tells me who's going to churn next in Wamly without me knowing it. It's already found a replacement, screened them, checked them out, matched them against all my requirements and my culture, and they're ready to start on the day that the person that I don't even know is going to churn is churning. Like, that's probably the ultimate use case. We're not there. But there are many, many areas in screening and matching and insights and data and building models, and that is in the thinking of the AI roadmap that in the next 18 months you'll absolutely see when you log into Wamly.
Sounds so incredibly exciting, man. I've got a question that's actually super left field now, and quite personal. Your self-reflexivity is super high, right? You're a very self-aware person. You're very truly confident instead of surface level confidence. There's a high degree of self-assurance, self-awareness. There's also humility. There's intelligence, there's belief, there's vision to everything that's going on. There's also vulnerability. I think what caught my eye here is also you saying, Cam, sorry, I'm going to pause and prioritize this. My employee that's flying to Europe. I just want to go give them a hug and just like wish them on their way. So it's just this, there's a warmth, there's a compassion. There's just like, you're just a great human, man. Right. And so where I'm going with this is like, is from a leadership perspective, leadership's hard. Leadership has a lot of responsibilities. It's a lot of weight on us, and we often have to look like the ones that have got all the answers. And that's the paradoxical vulnerability to what I said earlier of just admitting we don't know. But I think based on the picture that I painted, and this is like, I don't have a specific question, but where I'm going with this is I want to understand if on your own self-reflection of yourself, some kind of hard lessons that you've had to learn, or changes in kind of mindset or belief about yourself in relation to leadership, entrepreneurship, that you think would be worth sharing that has helped formulate you into this person that you are now.
Firstly, thank you for the compliment. I deeply appreciate it. Geez, what a journey. Like, I've never thought of myself as someone that, how do I say this? I've always believed that what I do set my mind to, I can achieve. Now, that's so cliche, I know. And I set my mind to be a tennis player, and I'm not. Okay. So it's not like it's worked out everywhere, but the belief in my ability to find a way, if it's in line with my values, my passion, the magic that I want to follow, the energy, that has worked out for me. Apologies, that's my email notification. That has worked out for me, and maybe the first lesson is to stop like all the bullshit around the figure that you want to build and the number that it should be, and like how big should it be, and how quickly can I achieve it, and what's the quick hack, and 5 steps for this or 10 steps for that. Like, this is 70%, 80%, like, depends on your decisions around work-life balance. But this is a massive chunk of not your career, your life. And do you genuinely want to be in a position daily where you're not able to follow passion, energy, and magic and truthfully resonate with your craft? Like, I'd say, like, that for me is a fundamental thing. If you give me a mic, if you give me a stage, if you give me a team, if you give me an audience, if you give me a human, that's where I really thrive. And before Wamly, I was this Fran At varsity, I was this Fran. At school, I was this Fran. And of course, my skills have evolved and my influence has evolved and my knowledge has evolved. And but like start really by going, who the hell am I? And what gives me energy and passion, and go and follow that. I think secondly, I've had to learn tough stuff that I'm still working on. That's part of my job that I don't enjoy, but I know I need to do it. For example, consequence management. I don't like I love conflict. I love argumenting, but from a conceptual perspective, I'll always challenge someone who gives a one-liner without data, or like if they can't back it. Like I'm that guy in the like last night we were at our prenatal class. My wife's pregnant, and this one person says something about a spinal, which is part of a C-section, and they drop this one-liner, and like it's random strangers, like I don't know them, and I'm like, why do you say that? And he couldn't answer me. And then I challenged him and the conversation was passed. And I didn't win. It wasn't a victory. I'm not on purpose. But I don't like to sit Cam down and go, Cam, you just fucked up, buddy. And this cost us money. And you're actually quite close to a verbal warning. That part of being the founder and the CEO, I hate. A conversation to let someone go, like a mutual separation agreement, or telling someone like your journey at Wamly is finished. I dread those conversations. They're really hard for me to do. And I've had to learn and teach myself how to do that because it's part of the job and I have to. When we're in Manco and we're discussing a problem like a price list or whatever the case might be, and the conversation is not progressing. So I'm touching on leadership style. I'm a collaborative leader. I'm not an autocratic, like it's my way or the highway. This is the decision. But Wamley's Manco forces me to make decisions. And in that moment, I I have to kind of back my ability to go, okay, let's go left. Even if it's not the right thing, like maybe right is the right answer, but I can't shy away from not making those hard decisions. And that's a skill I had to learn. And I was only confronted with that skill when Marnus exited and I became the CEO, because I didn't start Wamley as the CEO. I was the founder and I was head of, clients. So yeah, man, being aware, understanding your weaknesses, asking for feedback, being in conversations where you're vulnerable. I weekly will tell the team, I don't know. Let's try this. Like, you want a decision? Like my data, my intuition says let's go that way, but I've often been wrong, and then it's okay. And again, I know I'm sounding like a textbook, but I can give you multiple examples where Farron, our COO, will say, "Fran, I told you so. Fran, I said this to you a year ago," and I'm like, "Faz, you were right." And because I have the title, we went right, and you said let's go left. But you know what? You were right. Flipping hell, let's go left. And so, um, that's been like part of the leadership journey for me. Let me be even more vulnerable and tell you this. I'm very aware and observing of other CEOs. It's like a little hobby of mine that they don't know of, but I observe other CEOs. And a lot of the super successful CEOs that I either read up about or observe have this one trait in common that I know I don't have. And I actually don't like it, but I can understand why it's part of them being very successful. And it's this my way or the highway. I'm always right. I'm the assertive, dominant male, often in the room, and I can kind of dominate and influence. And I actually don't care about the consequences. Like there's something in what I just described there that I'm observing from a lot of other CEOs. And they also just happen to be very successful. And I can't help but draw a positive correlation between that trait and success. And I'm very aware that I don't have that. And sometimes it bites me in the ass. But I deeply believe that in the long run, it's better for me to not be like that than to force myself into being that, which doesn't come natural to me.
I'm very conscious of not trying to expand on what you're saying because you just dropped absolute nut gold, just platinum and diamonds, dude. I'm so happy I asked that question. But immediately my thoughts to that is I think the only way that you can be that in the short term is to be a narcissist or a sociopath, right? Because you cannot You have to have an ability to not care about consequences of being wrong and the impact that can have on other people in a position of power. I think the alternative is it's also just built with experience and time and patience. Is there comes this point of intuitively, I've been in the seat for enough. I've seen the experience that I believe that this is the right way. But also there's a level of accountability that even if I get it wrong, it's on me, and I'm happy to own that. And then that's the healthy side of that, which I fundamentally believe that you will be able to craft.
I think I've supplemented that with being just really resourceful, of having people around me that I'm so open to say, you're so good at that. Please play to that strength, because it's not me and it's okay. And so our board and my manco and my exco and my advisors and my mentors and my friends and madness to this day in Barcelona, like there are so many examples, my father-in-law, of people in business that I deeply trust. I know what their strengths are, and I know how to activate them when I need them without it being fake. It's just because I really need them. And I'm not going to bullshit my way through it because I worry about what people will think when I ask someone for financial assistance or pricing assistance.
Fran, what is the one question that I haven't asked you, that I should have asked you, that you'd like to answer now?
I mean, this has been an incredible, I can't believe it's been an hour and 40 minutes. I don't think there is one. I think it's been a phenomenal conversation. And thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share the story. And I look forward to hearing back from the audience, and maybe if they have questions, and if I can be of any sort of value to them, I'd love to do that and give back. And I've been very, very focused on the HR community for the last 5 years, and I'll continue to do so at We as a Business will. But personally, I don't have all the answers, and we're not exiting anytime soon for millions of rands. But if I can just help, share, listen, very happy to do that with anybody in your audience that wants to.
Fran, thank you for being on the Founder Files. If this is how episode 2 was compared to episode 1, I'm very excited for episode 3.
Cam, thank you so much. You must have a lovely day, and we'll chat soon. I appreciate it.
I'm not going to end off this episode like I usually do. I'm just feeling quite grateful, reflective right now. It's the awesome experience that you get when having a deep conversation with an authentic, courageous person that just makes you feel inspired to conquer your own problems and believe in yourself. And I think that's a superpower that Fran has. And I want to leave with that. I want to leave you with that. But, I'd be remiss to not point out that if you're in the scaling journey, and if it's not as clear and confident as Fran's is, there's a bit of chaos, there's a bit of uncertainty, there's a bit of worry, a bit of stress, a bit of anxiety to what's going on. And yeah, just you want some perspective, you want someone to do a bit of a thinking partnership with. Yeah, reach out to me, or reach out to Fran, right? He's also willing to help too. So if you're in the HR tech space or the SaaS space and wanting to scale your business and having these challenges, he can speak from that perspective. I can speak from the perspective of having seen 200 businesses plus and chatting to those founders. So yeah, if you want to have a chat, we'd love to help. If not, hopefully you'll stick around for the next episode. Thank you very much for joining me all the way to the end. I'll see you next time. Cheers for now.